You probably won't come away thinking this is the best thriller you have ever seen, but you may have second thoughts about uploading so much information online. You may also consider supergluing your phone to your hand to deter anyone from trying to access it. The South Korean mystery thriller, Unlocked, is director Kim Tae-jun's first full feature. Based on the novel of the same name by the Japanese author Akira Teshigawara, the film was initially meant to have a theatrical release before the production company decided on a straight-to-Netflix premiere. With a cast including the K-pop star Yim Siwon and the critically acclaimed Chun Woo-hee, expectations for this title were high, perhaps a bit too high. The premise for Unlocked is intriguing and a terrifying reminder of how much we rely on our smartphones. These pocket-sized supercomputers contain all our conversations with friends and family, our memories, our work schedule, our hobbies, and even our banking details. And the idea of some deranged psycho getting their hands on these profoundly personal details and using them for nefarious reasons makes for a great horror plot. Unfortunately, the execution is a bit messy. We don't spend enough time with Nami to care about what happens to her. The killer's actions make little sense. At one point, I thought I was watching the Korean version of You before devolving back into senseless chaos. Despite the relatively long runtime, too many narrative pieces are left in the air. Nami, Woo-hee Chun, has a flourishing social life on her social media handles. She works as a photographer and enjoys her life in both the real and the virtual world. One night, while going back home on a bus, she mistakenly drops her phone. Soon after, a guy picks it up and takes it with him. She is, however, so inebriated that she has no recollection of the incident. The next morning, her friend finds her in the same drunken state. Before meeting her, a girl had already notified her about finding Nami's phone the night before. Once Nami gets sober, she calls this girl to retrieve it. She asks her to bring her to the cafe, where she helps out her father. Little did she know that the girl who has her phone is, in fact, a guy playing voice recordings to trick her into believing it. Later in the cafe, Nami gets a call from this girl saying that Nami's phone is damaged, and she is given it for repair. Based on the address she receives, Nami reaches a ramshackle building to enter a mobile repair store. She meets this guy wearing a face mask and a cap so that his identity won't be revealed. He gives Nami a form to fill up to get back her phone. It also includes her mobile security password. During the repair work, this guy, who we get to know as Jun-young, Siwon Yim, adds spyware to Nami's phone. Once she takes it back, he can see her through it all the time. So, he traces her every single move while she is oblivious to being spied on. Through her phone's camera, he surveils her daily routine, where she goes, who she meets, and the place she works. He also gets access to all her conversations and her texts. Later at night, when she goes to sleep, he notes down several additional details from her life that are incredibly personal. Later, Nami learns about a sudden update on an account that she keeps anonymous. During the night, she posted a photo with a colleague in which she verbally abuses her coworkers. While it destroys her professional life, it also reveals Nami as the person who controls it. Right after getting a big promotion, she gets fired because of this incident. Meanwhile, Jun-young's father, police detective G-man, Kim Hee-won, stumbles upon a gruesome murder case. Victims' bodies are left without any way to find the culprit's fingerprints and identity. But G-man notices that these bodies are buried near the plum tree that he had planted with his son, which he was fond of. Sensing his son's possible connection to the murder, he traces down his location through his text interactions with his wife. Upon reaching that place, G-man finds enough evidence to implicate his son in the murders. So, he stays in the vicinity to gather video evidence of Jun-young's involvement in the crime. However, he senses his father's presence and decides to tease and scare him away. Jun-young leaves his apartment and keeps sending G-man photos of him clicked from a distance. While those photos creep out the detective, Jun-young uses that time of evading to destroy the evidence from his apartment. Meanwhile, he keeps appearing in Nami's life in one way or other. He arrives at her cafe and charms her by asking for a plum juice that her father had kept out of the menu. Later, he meets again with an excuse to buy a music CD from her and shares his visiting card with her during that transaction. Through these interactions, he familiarizes himself so that she won't suspect him as the creepy stalker. Later, Jun-young comes across to help Nami to know who hacked her phone. He elaborates on how the spyware would have worked, and gullible Nami believes him without a doubt. He also makes her suspect her close friend as the only possible culprit. While she is under his spell, her father finds his behavior odd and warns her about it. However, she does not pay much attention to his concern. Meanwhile, G-Man and his associate detective go to Jun-young's mobile repair store to investigate. They find the store in terrible condition, with papers and devices thrown all over the room. That's when Nami arrives there to repair her phone since she smashed it out of anger. They share the details about the case and join hands to find Jun-young. After Nami gets in touch with Jun-young, he comes to her apartment. G-Man and his associate stay outside the building to get hold of him. G-Man only assumes this killer to be his son, aka Jun-young. But after catching him and seeing him in person, G-Man starts doubting whether that is his son or not. They also hadn't been in touch with each other for years, which makes him unsure about Jun-young's appearance. G-Man's doubt is cleared in the end. After the killer evades an arrest, the detectives meet Nami and decide on a further plan to trace G-Man's location. She goes back to her father's bungalow upon their advice for her safety. Nami sees her father deep asleep and decides not to disturb him. But soon after, she finds that her father's not in bed and starts looking for him around the house. That's when she finds Jun-young waiting for her in their hall, who is angry at her for ruining his plans. So, he takes her to the bathroom and ties her up. Her father is tied to the bathtub, which is nearly full of water. But he doesn't let her breathe a sigh of relief.